All right, welcome back everyone to our second ever episode, Sunday League Screamers. I'm your host Vito with Steve and Mike. Say what's up, guys.
How we doing?
Hello.
Not too bad. Boys, let's just jump right into it. This is going to be our second part from our first one where we're going to take a look at some transfer speculation and some updates that have come through in the past week or two or so. And then we'll dive right back into the second half of the Premier League teams and to evaluate their needs and potentially who you could see coming and going and their bid to stay in the league and or win the league. So let's just jump right into it. Let's go with the biggest one first, Harry Kane. What are your thoughts, guys?
Mike's crying. I'm laughing. And it's a good time.
I recently went through like the 5 stages of grief or denial, whatever it's called. And I've come to the point now where like I'm at like that acceptance phase. Like I'm ready. I know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's inevitable. I went through the same shit with Gareth Bale when he first started, when I first started watching Tottenham. And in all honesty, I read reports I think it was like in an NBC report or something that City offered like, I think it was like 140, 150 mil or something. I know we talked about this on the last podcast with Holland and Chelsea. And would you accept that money if it comes in? In my mind, if they offer anything over $125 million for Harry Kane, just take it. Like, take the money, run. Like, he's in his prime right now. He's only going to, unfortunately, granted, maybe he's one of those players, you get better as age, but, like this is if you're going to cash in. If he doesn't want to play, he doesn't want to play. So I think if they get offered that exuberant amount of money, which, only 3 teams maybe in the world have, City being one of them, it's a no-brainer. You got to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's even generous. Honestly, if they come in for 90 million at this point.
Nah.
What's left on his contract?
3 digits. He's got like 2 or 3 years left.
Right, didn't he resign recently? Not recently, but like it's something
recently.
Close.
He's like 2.5, 3 years, something along those lines.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you guys just resigned Son too, so like
that was big.
You locked up one good one already. If it was ignorant amount of money comes for you, you just got to take it at that point. Like he's not happy there as it is. Just take it, run, and just replace.
Yeah.
Granted, Tottenham don't, and this is a totally different subject, but we don't have the greatest history of having one big transfer and then spending it all afterwards. So we'll see. I don't know. But hopefully
you do got to fund that new stadium that looks like a toilet seat. So
and Fabio we trust, the new Don of Tottenham. So
historically you guys have been about quantity with those funds rather than quality when you receive those massive payments.
Yeah. So we'll see. But a big rumor, if it comes, take it.
Yeah.
If not, keep him on the bench.
Do you think there's anywhere else he could end up other than City at this point?
Bayern if Lewandowski goes to Chelsea or PSG. That's about it.
Yeah, you got to look at the players and who has the money. Plus, I mean, if I'm Spurs, I really don't want to sell him inside the league. If he doesn't want to leave the country, then I get it. But like, if I'm them, I'm trying to push him to like Germany, just somewhere not where I have to face him twice.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. Well, let's stick with City's rumors then. Jack Grealish,
my boy, I love this guy actually. From the very first time I saw him when he got punched in the face and then Stewart scores the game winner, I have never loved a human being more in my entire life. I'm not kidding. I love him. He's amazing.
Do you think he's on the cards for City as well? You think they even have the money? Under the assumption they get Kane.
Oh, they have the money.
I mean, they have.
While still within those strictly enforced FPP rules or FFP rules.
Air quotes there.
Yeah, big air quotes.
What's oil on the market right now? Is it up at all?
I think it might actually be at an all-time low.
Okay, well maybe they don't have the money then. I'm not sure, but I don't see them signing both of them. Definitely one or the other. The bigger need for them is definitely Kane without a doubt. So I don't know if the Grealish move would make as much sense. Sterling just played his ass off at the Euros too. So is it really a necessary transfer for Grealish? I don't think so. And I don't know if he wants to compete. I know there's rumors and like speculation about it. Just moving to because he didn't play as much at the Euros or much as he maybe wanted to, and he wouldn't want to compete for a spot at Man City or another big club. I think he stays at Aston Villa. I don't see that one going through, and I also think it's the best spot for him right now, personally.
Yeah,
he's the go-to guy. I feel like he feeds off of being that. I don't know how good he would be as a role player or just another guy on a good team versus being the guy at a club.
I mean, maybe to fight back against that point, you saw what he did, how Southgate for the whole different thing, but how Southgate used him in the Euros, how he came in as a super sub, and there was multiple times throughout that tournament where once he came in, the complexion of that game changed. So I'm not saying I don't think he has that capability, but is that really how you want to use him if you spend 70 million or whatever, how many pounds on him?
Exactly. He has the capability to do that, but one, the money that you're gonna have to spend to get him. And then two, does he want to be the super sub? I don't think he does. I think he wants to be the captain, the guy, the guy.
Yeah, I mean, for the reported 100 million, I think that might be a little too steep. I mean, he is only 25 years old. He just turned 26 in, I believe it's September. So he could stay at Villa Park for another year, and secure that maybe that big money move next year after Man City land Kane, because obviously Kane's 28 now. So he's entering his absolute prime, although it seems like he's been in his prime for the last 5 years. But I agree. I can't imagine City's going to be able to get both of them. Especially without unloading anybody. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's not like they made any money off of Aguero or anything. That was a free transfer.
Yeah.
There are rumors that they're looking to offload Bernardo Silva, Jesus, and obviously Raheem Sterling. They were potentially talking about him. So
So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they got to move people before they can start buying people. So I think at the moment, if I had to choose where Grealish is going to go, I think he might end up staying this year. Kane will be the one to move. Well, let's move on to Pogba, because every direction seems to be pointing him to PSG. Do you think he's going to end up moving?
Back to France. I wouldn't shock me. A lot of players like to do that, go back to their home country. So definitely on the table.
I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. When he plays with obviously he has a lot of French teammates in the French league and on PSG in particular, because they're pretty much the French national team, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, when he plays with that team, it's like a totally different Paul Pogba, and he just seems to be enjoying himself so much more. And not to say he hasn't enjoyed himself in Man U and he hasn't been successful, but I just get the feeling that he would unlock a whole different potential on that team.
I agree. I don't know if he's held back necessarily in the role that he has to play at Man U, but when they just unleash him and let him go, you just see a different. He's amazing. I would imagine what they would do they do with Conte, with Idrissa Gueye, or what, I can't pronounce his name, on PSG, but they'd let him just sit and let Pogba just roam, do his thing, and then they're just gonna that's what made Pogba so fun to watch in the World Cup, the Euros, when he was playing at Juventus with Arturo Vidal, because they just had that guy sitting there and let him just do what he needs to do, and he was amazing. So I think that move makes a lot of sense. I hope he is able to push it through.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, according to Ole, he was questioned on this exact thing a couple of days ago, I think it was, and he confirmed that the club and Pogba are still in conversations. But there's a couple of reports circulating that Manchester United opened initial talks with Goretzka. So you can look at that, kind of both ways, as maybe he sees potential placement if they realize Pogba wants to stay, but he wants 500,000 pounds a week. You're not going to be able to swing that. But I agree. I think he needs to make that move. He's been in the league long enough. He has nothing to prove here, and PSG instantly become now Champions League favorites and gives Pogba a chance for that silverware. All right, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's look at Chelsea and their striker pursuit, both in Haaland and Lewandowski. Who do you think is more likely, and do you think either one's even potentially going to happen? Because I mean, there's a lot of question marks with both of these guys.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think out of the two, you're talking about more realistic, Lewandowski. I think the better of the options would be Haaland, just for the long term. He's much younger. What's he, 21? Lewandowski's 32. So you're looking at that alone. Is it worth the price tag that what you're willing to pay? I just don't think Dortmund's going to let him go. Personally, I think they're going to put up a brick wall no matter the price. Just for this year, because they lost Sancho already. I don't think they want to lose another big guy. I know they just signed Malen to just in case, but I just see them putting up a brick wall, or unless Chelsea throws 175 at them, which would be.
It would have to be astronomical. It'd have to be astronomical.
I think they're going to accept it. I really do. I think he's going to move. I don't know if it's going to be necessarily to Chelsea. Obviously, that's the leading candidate at the moment. But if you don't sell Haaland this year, you lose half of that potential fee. A $67 million release clause next year for 1 year of his service. You're going to lose out $65 million for one season. I think it's more than they're going to lose if they don't qualify for the Champions League, and I still think they're going to qualify.
So he has a release clause that kicks in next year.
Chelsea.
Yeah, next
year. What's up?
His
release clause drops to 67. Yeah. So I think they don't have a choice this
tactic.
Year.
Yeah, it might be a negotiating tactic right now. But.
Yeah.
It's a very put up or shut up kind of thing. Like you got to show
yes,
us the money, like Jerry Maguire. Like
yes.
Show me the money, baby.
And the widely reported fee at the moment is 150 million is going to end up doing it. Who knows? Marina Graviskaya, I forgot how to pronounce her name, the technical director for Chelsea in charge of the transfers, is usually a whiz with recouping big fees or getting low prices. So we'll see. But I truthfully think he's going to be on the move this year because by all reports, it sounds like Chelsea's going to be willing to spend the money.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, I didn't know the release clause thing, truthfully. So that's huge. There's no reason not to sell him at that point. I changed my stance 5 minutes later. I'm sold.
Money,
Good
Steve?
job.
Yeah, but all right, let's look at one more. James Maddison. A lot of talk over where he was going to go. I mean, it seemed widely reported for a while that he was definitely going to be on the move, and things fizzled out, and now they're back on. What do you guys think about a potential move for him? You think he's better off staying at Leicester or moving to one of these other clubs?
What clubs was he being linked with? Apologies.
The main one was Arsenal.
Currently it's mainly Arsenal.
Isn't that why would he take a step down?
That's my whole thing too. I know.
Exactly.
I don't get it. There's no point to like Leicester in a much better position as a club.
They're ascending. Like
yeah. There's also there was a little bit of talk of Manchester United though as well.
I did see that. I don't think it'd be worth him
after
going
the
there.
Sancho deal.
I agree.
Between that and just you'd be behind Bruno. He's too good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'd be worth for Madison.
I mean, at 24 years old, also. I mean, you're getting a kid who's playing at elite levels already too, though. So I mean, if you can get him, I think if Manchester United can get him for a 30 million pounds or so,
no shot.
I think
he's not going for 30. He'd be going for double that at a minimum.
Yeah, don't.
He's English though. Like
he's English, exactly. Yeah,
that's true.
He's gonna the price is gonna skyrocket. So
yeah, I don't see that one happening, and Leicester would be stupid to sell him. You can build the team. He's the type of guy you can build a team around.
Yeah, and he's contracted for a couple more years. So
yeah, I think he's created the most chances over the last 2 years in the Prem. I could be wrong. He's up there. I think he is the top guy though. Maybe second to Kevin De Bruyne, but I think he even beat him.
Yeah, he's up there. He's definitely up there.
All right, that's pretty much all the major ones at the moment that news is still circulating about. How about we finish up our second part right now? We look at the next 10 Premier League teams and evaluate the needs and what we think might be happening.
Let's jump into it.
Yeah. We left off with Leicester, so going alphabetically, we're up to Liverpool. That Konate move was brilliant for them, and they got him for a pretty reduced fee. So I think that was their biggest need in defense, obviously with Virgil van Dijk hurt, and especially considering Klopp this week coming out and saying that him and Matip were not going to be ready to face. I forget who Hertha Berlin, I believe, in a preseason friendly. So there's still question marks on when exactly Virgil's going to be back. I think one of the only places Liverpool really need to strengthen is maybe on their wings outside of Salah and Sadio. If they're not playing, who really slots in and gives them the caliber offense they need? I mean, I know Diego Jota was a little bit better up front than Firmino this year, but without those two guys, they were really struggling for goals.
Which is weird to say about a Liverpool team. It's like super weird to say.
And they created a bunch of opportunities too. I think they had the most goals, expected goals in the league last year. So I don't know if it was a finishing thing. It was tough to see last year, but they were definitely off. Injuries didn't help them without a doubt. I mean, losing Gomez plus Van Dijk was massive to the team. I think that's the only reason why they almost didn't push for second, or if not push Man City for a first place finish again.
I mean, you have to remember too, like the past probably 2 to 3 years, they've been playing how many games, and those players have been playing how many nonstop, right? Yeah. And I'm sure that exhaustion is probably caught up to them. And this is probably the year where they were just like, all right, shit, we really got to not take a break, but they needed a breather. I think
especially in a Klopp style offense.
This was that breather year.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think everything went wrong. Possibly, I could have went wrong last year for that.
I saw a pretty crazy stat that said, I believe it was Mohamed Salah assisted Sadio Mane towards the latter half of the season, like the last couple games, and it was the first and only time they did that all year, that Salah assisted Mane. Or it could have been the opposite way around, but either way.
I saw the same thing you're talking about too.
Otherwise, I think the only place they can potentially look at is maybe central midfield with the departure of Gini Wijnaldum. I know he played an incredible amount of minutes for them, and he was great in the middle of the park, and he's a big loss for them.
Did you see him go off on the fans a little bit? Actually,
yeah,
that's kind of nuts. He went off on like the fans a little bit, like so like he wrote like an open Facebook or whatever it was, Instagram post, Twitter. I'm not really sure what site it was on exactly, but basically along the lines of Liverpool, you were great to me. Social media was not when I was doing well at the club. I was being praised by everybody. When I was doing poorly or like you didn't see my behind the scenes and how much effort I was putting in, I was just getting ridiculed on social media. Yeah, you kind of like it was interesting. I actually liked it from a player perspective because I think it really feeds into the fans really don't have an absolute clue sometimes.
Yeah.
No.
They're the Real Madrid of England now.
Might be. Might be.
Real Madrid fan base. But all right, this is a pretty Man City heavy pod so far. But Steve, you want to take it from there?
I mean, realistically, what they have two first teams right now. The only thing they truthfully need is just a replacement for Aguero, and it's if they're will. I don't know how much money they have to spend. I'm assuming they have enough, but that's it. It's Harry Kane or just somebody else that they can come and bring in. I don't think Jesus is the answer. He's been there for a while. He really hasn't filled those shoes to what they thought he was going to. Is he a good squad player? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not relying on him for 20 goals a year by any means. So their biggest need is definitely striker. Everywhere else on the field, they literally have two starters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how Chelsea and Man City approach their biggest need because you're talking about both Champions League finalists in the same league vying for the top flight, and their biggest needs are both strikers, and they're both going after incredibly expensive top caliber strikers in Kane and Haaland. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who wants it more. Like if one of them doesn't get their target and the other one does, it's a statement year.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. And going across the street, Mike, you want to take over United?
Yeah, definitely. So in talks, obviously we kind of touched on the Pogba piece, which, has its own potential, right? If he leaves, obviously that's a gap they're going to have to fill and kind of think about, which we've already said, maybe Leon Goretzka. But right now, realistically, the center back piece, the partner for Harry Maguire, if they sign Varane, I mean, Jesus, give them like the bow right now for the best transfer window, in my opinion. Out of like the English teams, they have Sancho, they got Varane. They just totally upended, revamped, upgraded that team. Potentially Champions League winning team right there, realistically, with like the team they have. Assuming Pogba stays, they're going to be a fucking force, realistically.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, the only thing else I could think of is, like you said, if Pogba leaves, definitely center defensive mid. I heard they want to give McTominay a bigger role in the club, especially going forward. I don't know if that's the best thing for them, but I think they probably could use another center D.
Yeah.
Fred's not the answer.
Yeah, maybe a backup striker to Cavani, but they have like Greenwood who could play there, Rashford who could play there. They could slide in and out, so they're pretty versatile. But I mean, if they stay healthy, I don't see why there's no reason they don't walk away with maybe it's a Premier League title, maybe it's an FA Cup. I don't see them coming away empty-handed this upcoming year with like trophies. So
I think do you think if they do, Ole's gone?
If they don't win anything this year, I think they got to let him go.
I think you judge him on the trophies now at this point.
Yeah, because at this point you've pumped all the money and you have the players you want. Like this is the year to do it. So
that'll take us over to Newcastle, though. Newcastle is a little bit interesting. The manager came out this week, I think it was this week, and he said, I'm not going to bullshit the fan base. We have to look at loan deals. He basically came out and said we really can't afford anybody, even though obviously Newcastle needs players. So it's going to be curious to see who's available to be loaned to that club. I mean, they need a striker, but I think more so they need to revamp their defense. They didn't do terribly last season. I mean, 45 points. They finished about mid-table in 12th position, but they gave up 62 goals last year. That is a lot of goals, and they only kept 7 clean sheets the entire year. They need to be looking to revamp that entire back line, and that's going to be hard to do with loan deals.
They're going to have to just go for like more or less unproven players out of whether it's the Championship, whether it's like the French League, something like that, where like they're willing to like let that player leave, get some Premier League experience, whatever. They got to really fix that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that right side, that right back, right wing back position. It's going to be a big task. That's for sure.
They honestly, depending on maybe a couple things, you could be thinking maybe potentially like a Newcastle relegation candidate, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is it Steve Bruce is in charge now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Rafa's gone. So I mean, we'll see, but definitely the back line is where they need to be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean they picked up what's his face too last. It was the last season with Callum Wilson.
Yeah, yeah, they did pick
Yeah,
him up.
I thought he played like a little more of a bigger impact for them up front. They're definitely gonna need some more goals out of him, without a doubt. I think he scored like 10, 12 maybe at most.
Mm-hmm.
Something around that.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to find goals
12
elsewhere.
actually. Yeah. But all right, let's look at Norwich. Welcome back, Norwich.
Welcome back, my boy Timo Pukki,
My
baby.
favorite. Yeah. No Pookie, no
He's
party.
just a fun dude to watch. I mean, he's like just like kind of that typical like poacher.
Yeah.
Put it in front of him, he's gonna finish it away, the type of guy. It was ironic though. Both times they've come up so far, or I should say both times. The first time they came up, they were one of the best goal scoring teams. The second time they're coming up again recently, they again were one of the best scoring teams in the league below them. What problem was once they got to the Premier League, that just all pretty much shut down.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have much to go off of last time. I think they've improved since then, but I don't know if Pookie's going to be enough. I know they have Cantwell up there. They just solidified the midfield with Billy Gilmore, but again, it's going to be his first season like running a midfield. Is he going to live up to expectations? Is he not? So far, from what we've seen, he's pretty damn good. Defensively, they shorted up. I know they just bought another center back, but they probably got to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also lost two big pieces of that team.
Buendia, yeah.
Buendia, and then also the Tottenham loanee Oliver Skipp, who was a part of their player of the year, like for Norwich. He came in, totally transformed that team defensively from like a defensive midfielder perspective. That was a huge loss for them. They were really pushing hard on Spurs to keep him for the year, but Spurs obviously said no to that. So,
You want to hear something terrifying? When Norwich got relegated, as bad as Sheffield United were this year, Norwich won less games than Sheffield this year.
Jesus.
Put in perspective how disastrous that relegation year was for them. So good to have them back. I mean, they're tearing it up. So
yeah, I mean, the major problem with them, in my opinion, is truthfully just the management. They're not willing to spend the big money and like to do it. So you can only patch holes with like a little bit amount of money in the Premier League as possible, but you don't have long-term success or sustainability if you don't give a little bit back into into the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, let's move over to Southampton, perennial sellers.
Yeah, perennial sellers, baby, on the South Coast.
Yep.
So more than likely, Ings it seems like he's on the way out. He's got 1 foot in the door, or maybe 1.5 foot out the door, right? I said that incorrectly, but regardless, he seems like he's about to go.
Well done.
They have Che Adams, who they signed last year, who's been performing relatively well. He's a really hard worker. He's a good player. I think there's something there they can work with. Realistically, they probably need to fix if Ings goes, they got to get obviously a striker to replace him, or try to. But from maybe like a center back, left back perspective, they'd probably need somebody. They also had a pretty crappy keeper, and it was Ramsdale, right, who was their keeper. It didn't really have the greatest, from what I remember. He wasn't the greatest in that for them. So they have some stuff more defensively that they really need to be focused on and worrying about if they're going to really be in contention for like that mid-table spot.
Yeah, I know they just picked up Walcott, so I think it's a good addition for them and everything. But losing out on Bertrand in the back, I think that's a little bit of experience and just generally he's a good player as well. Ings only has 1 year left on his deal, right? And then he walks out for free.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's tough. You don't want to get rid of him because when he was on form last year, not hurt, he was killing it for them. But 1 year deal, he's not signing another one. Do you just take what you can get for him now and reinvest it, or do you just keep him, hold on to him for a year and worry about it next year, even letting him out for free? Yeah. It's kind of hard to say.
I think you'd have him as a favorite for Tottenham right now.
I don't think he'll go. I personally don't want him to go there, but I think they should cash out on him, and I think they should try to reinvest that money into a striker if possible.
Do you think if he leaves though, they get relegated? I think they're candidates afterwards.
Yeah,
I think they would be, definitely. I think they're definitely up for that talk. I mean, Ralph Hasenhüttl, like in the beginning of the year, they were pretty good in the beginning of like the last year.
They were as good as he carried them. It was pretty much the same with the Grealish almost.
Yeah, and then once he got injured, that was it. So they got to find a serious replacement for him.
I think it's all going to depend on what amount of money's being thrown at them for him. If you're talking like letting him go for 10 million, 15 million, it's more valuable to keep him on the team and let him walk for free. So
exactly.
See who'd come after. But like I said, he was a Tottenham target, so let's just move on to them. Mike, I'm going to ask for your help with this as a Tottenham fan. I think we can sit here for an hour and talk about Tottenham's needs right now. Although I will say the biggest one has been handled in Jose Mourinho sacking and Nuno being appointed. So I think you're definitely a step in the right direction compared to where you were, in the latter half of last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of your needs seem to be based around whether or not Kane's going to stay. I mean, that's your talisman, your best player. I think signing Sundown, your next best player, was obviously huge. But I mean, your glaring need is plugging the holes in your defense.
Oh yeah. So rumors are circulating. They're flying around. We just, for those who don't know, we got for a long time, haven't had a director of football at the club. And Fabio Paratici, I could be totally butchering that name, but he's come in and thus far, from what I've read, what I can tell, he's done a pretty good job negotiating, finding deals. They recently signed a new goalie, which is good because Hugo's coming up in the last year of his deal. So they're in talks of do we extend him? Do we try to get a fee for him if possible? Personally, I think you keep Hugo because he's still a top, probably 8 keeper in the world, realistically.
Agreed.
That being said, defensively, they got to get a center back. There was talks for Jules Koundé, which I personally don't see happening. There's talks for Ramirez out of Atlanta, who I do, from what I have read, is apparently he's phenomenal. Just won Serie A's Defensive Player of the Year, 23 years old. Paratici also initially brought him in from Juventus and then loaned him out to Atlanta. So he has good relations with Atlanta. So it seems like that deal is lining up. If they get him, that drastically improves the defense. Alderweireld's already left. So yeah, I mean, left center back, probably right back as well.
Quick correction, Atalanta. It's
Atalanta.
in Italy, not Atlanta,
Right.
United States.
Thank you. Sorry.
But yeah, no, I mean,
so
I agree.
uncultured over there.
I know. I'm an uncultured swine.
Vito literally just smiled at you. We both knew exactly what the other was thinking.
Atlanta United. I was like, the hell.
It's like, I'll let him finish before I rip him a new one.
But yeah, no, it's. I mean, that's great that you guys appointed him. He's definitely going to be a big help. I mean, kind of incredible that you guys didn't have one for so long, honestly.
Well, Daniel Levy thought he was a mastermind, and little did he realize that he knows jack shit about signing players and what players to look for.
Yeah. I think you guys need to make a big statement. I think you have to have a big statement and kind of bring in almost a player in each third of the field, because you're looking at a potential exodus for Tottenham at this point. If Kane goes, and like you said with Hugo on his last year of his deal, etc. Ndombele's not happy, it seems.
It's a rebuild, 100%.
Yeah.
If Kane goes, I think I honestly, again, like we said it earlier, I think if they get offered 150 mil, you take it. You don't say a word. It is what it is. See you later. We'll go buy Danny Ings maybe, right, in that scenario, and just let him play up top with Son. However, if he stays, which I personally think he will, and they'll just kind of force him to play it out for a year before they sell him, I think you have a shot at something, at least with that new bullshit UCL or tournament, whatever they have. Maybe you have a shot of winning that or losing to Jose Mourinho's Roma at the very end.
That would be the most Spursy thing of all time. Do you understand that?
I'm preparing for that inevitable outcome. I already know it's going to happen in my head.
We apologize to any Arsenal fans out there who had to watch them lose to Villarreal this year. Same concept, but
the Jose presser, if that was to happen afterwards,
oh my God,
I would pay ungodly amounts of money to just watch it. It'd be worth it.
He'd show up in a Tottenham shirt and pull it off.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got rid of the biggest cancer at our club, which is awesome. That being said, we really have to plug the defense, and I can talk about this for a while, but defense, biggest priority. That's where it's got to be focused.
Agreed. Completely agree.
Do you guys have the system to where you can go to a 5-back like Nuno kind of typically likes, because he loves that wing backs? I feel like. Yeah,
so
I know obviously Darty coming over there.
Darty, who he worked with previously, Reguilon and Sessegnon, who are going to probably benefit the most out of that. All right, in general.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this another day, because right now we're just talking about each team's biggest needs, not tactical.
Fine, cut us off, asshole.
Steve, well, I was trying to throw the ball to you. I just wanted to hear you talk about Watford is all.
So they're really not a high scoring team by any means. And they're relatively pretty old too, especially defensively. They've tried to make as many signings as possible to fix those. But I mean, they got Danny Rose for free recently. Good signing. What's he, 31, 32? He's up there in age.
Yeah.
The rest of their defense is too, in Dawson and a couple other guys. They tried signing some strikers and Ashley Fletcher and Joshua King. He came over for free too. I don't know if they're the solution to keep him up there because what the hell is that old Deeney.
Troy.
Good guy, Troy. I don't see how. I know in the last episode we said Brentford were relegation hopefuls. I think these guys are in the same boat. I don't see, just looking at up and down at their squad, I don't know how they stay up, truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they might. I think you're right. I think they might be a little out of their depth here.
Yeah, there's nothing there that screams at me like they're going to produce a bunch of goals. I don't see that happening. They don't have like great midfielders. They're older. They're probably one of the older teams in the league, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they would need a revamp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at now. Kabasele is 30 years old on defense. Like I said, Dawson, he's about 32. Craig Cathar's 32.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see them staying up.
Yeah, this is one of my early picks for relegation as well.
There's nothing about them that screams we can make in the Premier League another year.
And I hope it doesn't happen. I mean, I think they're great in the Premier League. I love their fan base, and of course that Troy Deeney goal. Well, the assist, I guess it wasn't technically him, but that clip's one of the best of all time. And it stopped in like the 97th minute when Watford scored. But yeah, no, I'm with you. But okay, let's move on to West Ham then. 2 left.
Yeah. So big surprise, obviously, right from last year. They had Jay Lings tearing it up at the very end. They had David Moyes, who honestly, debatably coach of the year.
I thought he was manager of the year.
Debatably, like he probably had a really good case to be. They really just need to boost up, what feels like that attack, because once who was it? Michael Antonio went down, and he was a little injured. It seemed like they were just lacking that pure firepower at the very end of that final stretch. And they had a relatively favorable run-in too, right? And it's just because of those injuries that just totally screwed them. So just building that squad depth, focusing on the more attacking firepower. Now that Lingard is back, I mean, he's back at Man U, right? Technically,
yeah,
they're asking Real Madrid right now.
they're asking for about like 30 mil for him. I don't see them getting that from anyone, especially inside the league. I think he'd be good to go to West Ham. I think that would be a great move for him specifically as a player and for the West Ham in general as a team. I just don't see that transfer getting completed like it should. I think they're just far apart on the evaluation on him.
Maybe that's a club where like, not to get too hopeful, but maybe like a Daryl DK gets signed, like a U.S. international right there. They need a striker. He goes up top and, a cool 20 mil for him. You roll the dice on a DK.
Well, that's definitely a dream of yours. I don't see that one happening anytime soon.
No, but we'll see.
I think they'll end up with Tammy Abraham, though. They're definitely interested, and I know 40 million is a little high for them, and they're not going to pay that because I wouldn't pay 40 million for Tammy Abraham. But I think if Chelsea sees 30 million max, sitting on the table for him, 25, then in their Holland pursuit, I don't think they'd be able to pass it up. And like you said, Mike, they definitely need some more firepower up front. I mean, Mikel Antonio can't do it all himself. Yeah,
no, defensively, they're a very strong and sound team. It's really just attacking mid, striker, and if you want to throw another winger in there, maybe behind Bowen or something like that. But it's really, striker. They need some competition and just a little bit of youth. I think Mikel Antonio is 31 now?
Exactly.
Yeah. So he's gonna start missing games through the injury and some other stuff too. So just get someone behind him and someone in the attacking mid. It could be a Ross Barkley, it could be a Jay Lins, anyone along those lines, those kind of names.
I actually think they're going to kind of stutter this year big time. I think the increased games in the Europa League are going to take its toll. They don't have the depth for that. And I actually think they're going to end up in the bottom half of the table this year.
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah. Save that one for that one episode we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. But all right. Last but certainly not, well, no, you are least. But Steve, here you go. Wolves.
I mean, what can we say about them? They just lost Rui Patricio. They lost their head coach. You saw what happened to them when they lost Raul Jimenez last year. When he was down injured, their team basically just fell apart. They were the year before that, they punt 7th, I think it was.
They got 7th consecutively, which is kind of impressive in the second year at least, given the injuries and everything. I'll be honest.
Well, no, I'm saying no. Last year they dropped heavily, but I'm saying the year before that was when they had 7th.
Last
year, what were they, like 14th?
Last year they were 13th.
13th, yeah. So
by a point, Palace was. I mean, realistically, they were like 4 points from being 17th because of the way the bottom of the table shaped up.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, strikers number one thing that they have to come in there with because. Granted, yeah, Raul's not going anywhere this year, I don't think, but in the future potentially, because if he gets back on form, he's one of the best in the league, I think, especially just finishing.
Yeah.
Midfielder to replace Neves, possibly. There's been transfer rumors about him going somewhere. I heard Man U is a big liker of his, especially if Pogba leaves, he could definitely replace him. And then probably just left back. But other than that, I mean, they have a pretty strong and sound team up and down the field. I know losing Jota didn't help them by any means, but I wouldn't pick them as relegation candidates unless Jimenez gets hurt for a long period of time. They're probably like sitting around that 10th place.
Who do they sign as a coach? Do you happen to know?
I could look it up real quick. Give me a sec.
Can't remember.
I'm curious who they brought in.
But
anyway.
Losing
Bruno Lage. I don't know how you say his last name. Portuguese, shockingly.
Yeah. Is he?
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, Portugal
about to be the national team. Ronaldo is going to be playing for Wolves next week.
That'd be dope.
He is a member.
That would be fucking awesome. Yeah,
Mendes has strong ties to Wolves, so
yeah,
that would be talk about a plot twist. But
well, Juve can't afford him. He's got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I do agree with Steve Yu though. The striker. I mean, they definitely need that. I killed him with. Well, thankfully, he's coming back, but having him gone for so long was definitely their biggest miss.
Oh, it was extremely noticeable, and Nuno's an amazing manager. I think he's one of the better ones in the Prem, honestly, especially very underrated.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And he couldn't even do anything for him. They look so bad up front that it was ridiculous.
Did he win Coach of the Year or Manager of the Year when they got promoted and they finished in 7th?
I want to say you're right, but I'm not 100%. I know he was definitely.
He did, and that's robbery, just like Moyes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There's no way they gave it to him now.
Yeah, probably not.
It's literally whoever wins first place, pretty much.
Liverpool won the league for the first time in forever. But yeah, that's all 10. We got our 20 or 20 or up. Really excited for this season. I think this is one of the strongest overall Premier League seasons, I think, in terms of squad quality and quantity. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. Especially, it's going to be nice to have fans back in the stadium. I don't have to listen to crowd noise and everything else of the sort.
Absolutely. I'm curious what the transfer window is going to punch out, though, because the top 6 outside of, I guess, Man U really, and maybe a little bit of Leicester, they're not making any moves.
I was going to say.
It feels like a lot of panic buying is going to go on, and just I don't know what's going to happen up there, but you have a month left, pretty much about a month. So,
any bold predictions you think might come out of left field?
Should I say Haaland to Chelsea now?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I think that's. I don't want to say likely, but I think it's the likeliest possibility for that. Okay, most bold prediction I can have: Ronaldo goes back to United.
Wow. Okay.
That's bold.
Juve's looking to sell. They don't want. They were looking at PSG for a swap because they wanted Cardi, who's been their long-term target, obviously. And I don't think Ronaldo would want to go to PSG where Neymar. He wouldn't be a Neymar shadow, obviously, but
yeah.
His love for United, and they probably get him somewhat decently cheap.
James Maddison is going to be in the player of the, not the player of the year, but he's going to be in the team of the year.
I was talking about transfers strictly, but
you told me both predictions. I'm just throwing one out there. I think you got to be more definitive on your questions here.
Well, I'm looking forward to our bold prediction segment as we get closer to the new year. That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I don't know. Transfers, I feel like a lot of them are just really talked about. There's not really anyone that are sticking out to me.
Yeah, well, it seems to be to Mike's point, without a lot of movement, and your point, without a lot of movement, a lot of the teams that have the money to spend are looking at one main, really expensive guy these days. City and Chelsea, same way. United already made their splash. Tottenham, you're going to have to figure out what to do with the money. But
I think, honestly, my prediction is that Kane stays. He's not going anywhere. I don't think City pony it up. I think
it's too late for him to go.
I thought that too.
I think Kane stays, and I think what you're going to see happen also is Tottenham are going to do some other type of swap deal. They're already in talks with Sevilla to send Eric Lamela the other way for this up and coming kid, Brian Gill. I think they're gonna really go hard at Jules Koundé. Unless Real Madrid comes in, I firmly believe they're gonna throw a ton of money in Davinson Sanchez there and be like, "Yo, come to North London." And if that happens and they're able to get him, that's my big bold prediction. If they get him, that's a top 4 team right there. I'm throwing it out there.
Him the top 4, and that is bold.
I'm throwing it out there. Bold. I think that
you got Arsenal win the league.
Yeah, maybe. I'm telling you.
No, he's actually got Tottenham win their first trophy.
Eager to see it. Yeah, eager to see it. But that's it for today, everybody. Tune in this time next week. We're going to be taking a look at the Gold Cup, maybe anything that changes, whether or not, whether from a transfer perspective or, kind of the rule changes like we talked about before.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to it. And thanks for tuning in to our second podcast. See you guys later.